And so. My confidence.
Well,
Yeah, but
it is for me, right? Because that's not my nature, right? And so my comment was, you really had a good time working with the kids today. She goes, her comment was, it's so much easier after I've taught this, because it was their second time teaching it that day. So much
Oh.
easier doing it the second time.
Oh,
So I'm thinking, was the screensaver on the first? I'm sure it was. It's lights off, and I hate lights off. But these homes are drag. I don't care if you bring in the expanding man. I mean, it's gonna be. This bothers some people. Those kind of lights put me to sleep, like in the library for a long time.
fluorescence,
Yeah.
plus even, there are kids who have a hard time seeing,
Oh,
you know,
that's-
won't wear the glasses or, you know, whatever.
I'm good, thank you.
School when, you know, it's like,
I need to be quiet. Well, they've got people, so she needs it recorded. So I've learned that when it's recording, I need to keep my comments.
Can you guys hear?
what?
I can hear you.
I can hear you, can you?
Yeah,
Yes.
and so we're looking for Carlos on there, we're looking for Lawrence, we're looking for Benika.
Lanika's on here.
hi, guys.
Bob coming in? I thought Bob was coming in.
Who?
Bob,
He's supposed to be here,
I
yeah,
assume he will.
he said he would. So Carlos, we're ready. He's still at the same thing.
Some of the issues with the women's already hearing.
Yesterday, last times.
I couldn't remember. Mom's meeting, Shane's mom's meeting.
Did you always change the
Oh, yeah.
agenda for the search committee person?
So I put-
No, I'd already printed it. I figure when you guys,
What makes the changes
yeah.
again?
mm,
Okay, is that her name? You know, the other,
Christie.
Irene, the other would be the mom who comes to the meetings.
Oh, that's right.
Would you give me her?
Change
Shane's
mom.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Shane's
yeah,
mom.
yeah.
Yeah, I could not.
If you don't have.
Christy Bechtel.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for adding, putting that on the.
I'll
minutes.
look because she might have put it on her, on the sign-in sheet.
But I've got it.
And then I couldn't remember Zoe's last name, but I remember it now, I got it now. So, one of the things that I have published with the minutes.
Zoe.
I also, yeah, she was here presenting with her.
Oh, the ceramics.
Ceramics.
Oh, she's not,
Oh, student.
she's talking about who was here. That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I was going through the minutes because I've had some problems with the minutes. I also wanted to give some, well, there was a request for me to write a little more information when it comes to, and I think I did okay, but I also thought maybe putting it here at the bottom of the minutes, a copy of the middle school report.
Yeah.
If I kind of do like a little summary of it.
got one?
And then have a little note at the bottom if you want a full copy, if you want a copy of a full report, just ask somebody or something like that. Or do you want me to copy and paste the reports?
I think you could attach them.
Okay, attach them, but me also give a brief summary,
And staple them to it.
right?
You need to ask the chair.
Because the minutes would be from what I got from the meeting, right?
Right.
So
Give me your
that's,
hard drive.
well, you'll see them if you read the minutes.
Yeah,
You'll see what I mean. And, would it be okay if I asked, for a copy of his finance report?
sure.
Since we're getting reports from everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think he summarizes it.
Bob's on, oh, Lenita's on.
He summarizes.
Lenika's on.
Carlos is
Yeah.
driving to his home and we'll get on as soon as he gets there.
Adding in there, it's,
Yeah.
I need a report,
I mean.
And Lawrence, haven't heard back.
Or, you
So
pretty
know,
much.
okay,
Better
yeah.
talk to
I mean,
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah,
Because Sylvia used to give a pretty good report
Mhm.
and she would add it to our documents.
Okay.
Right, so,
Yeah, just.
so are you saying,
Lawrence, give it to-
I just wanna make sure, so are you saying add the reports to the document?
I think so.
Yeah, cause they're already done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I can just give
It's
a
not
brief
really extra
summary.
work.
I could just put the main topic, what I heard in the meeting.
Right, but you could also just attach it.
I understand that.
So it doesn't matter to me, it's how they
Well,
want.
because I've tried every which way to shorten up these minutes,
Mhm.
and there's just no way to do so.
Well, there's a lot of, it's a lot of important information.
right, so I think for the minutes, I think I'm doing okay, I tried it a different way today, so. Well, I reverted back to the way I was doing it before,
Mhm, which I think was fine.
yeah, but I'm gonna need, I'm gonna ask Lawrence to look for.
April fountains,
Yeah, she did, thank you. I think I'm gonna do so.
so,
Hey Cindy.
Didn't go a chance to look at it. The agenda, the meetings.
Yeah, and I don't think Lawrence is gonna make it tonight.
who?
I don't
Yeah.
think Lawrence is gonna make it. He asked me if I could give the report.
Right, he's at a doctor's appointment that's running long, and so,
Yeah,
and if he gets on, he gets on. We appreciate you being willing to do the report.
You know, so
yes. I'll do whatever we need.
like when you do our kid middle school, high school, work,
How for you,
you
you
just have.
going
the
to
road.
share? Right, you'll do it, you're just here to observe.
Yes,
So,
And that's what I was having, I was attaching it.
Okay.
Copying and pasting it basically, but that's what.
Well, I appreciate you being here.
Wants it differently, so I just made a little summary and I've had it in the minutes. And at the end of it, I put this.
Copy.
That's just for
Yeah.
example, and it's nothing written, it's set in stone, so. That's my question.
Well, again, you know,
I shortened up their report,
yeah, because basically they just kind of read the report.
they read the report.
And so as long as the report's in here, if there's a highlight or a question by the board about something, you can note that. Board question, or there was further discussion
Yeah.
about.
And see, what I feel is relevant may not be relevant to somebody else.
That's right.
So, you know, so
Well,
that's what I'm putting, what I felt was important, but not everybody feels the same way I do when they're hearing it, you know?
well, again, if the report's available, I can go back.
Good deal, Bob.
That's what I meant, that's why I put that little.
I'm good, how are you?
The main
Pizza and salad, Bob.
thing. But like I said, to me, the main point was not anything was important.
That's okay.
How are you?
That's the idea. that we
Good.
should-
How are you? Good.
And if we have an issue with it or think something's important, it wasn't reflected,
I
we
have
need to
some
say
questions,
something,
right.
and say, you know, I thought that was important.
Yeah, 'cause
But it's
to me,
not on
I think
you.
People are just,
The-
okay,
the chair.
they're not even reading them.
Right chair. 4:37, and we have.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that when it gets to the agenda, I'd like to move some things.
Yeah, we gotta do that. Okay, so call the meeting to order, gonna do a roll call. We have via Zoom, we have Aaron. Kara, Alex, our visitors. Lanika, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Bob, are you here?
I am here.
April?
Present.
And me, and so that gives us a quorum of 4. If I could get approval of agenda, although we've got some changes. So one change is I'm not sure we have public comment, anyone
So
here.
I would like to be able to introduce Harpreet, but,
Okay.
and we could do it during public comment, but it's just really be an introduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So also during public comment, Alex is here.
So it's,
Oh, we don't want a public comment,
well, it's either
because we want to be.
before or after public comment, we add it to the agenda as a discussion, non-action item.
Okay. So it's a discussion, non-action item to have Alex
Right.
be available to answer questions about the search
Yes,
process.
that's right.
Otherwise, everything else is,
And then we have an executive session regarding a personnel matter.
oh, do we? We did that last time, didn't we?
Isn't it on there?
It's on here.
Didn't we do that? Oh, maybe we just planned on it.
Yes. And you and I talked it through.
Okay,
All right.
to me, it was.
You're done.
We're done. We,
All right.
all right,
so-
yes,
So
exactly.
I'd like to move it all the way to the end,
Okay,
to allow, because people
Yeah.
are gonna have to come off the screen. And that way they can be done with the meeting.
okay,
And then my director's report is right after it, and it's part of the.
okay, great.
I do still have to record after the executive session, because the ending of the meeting.
And so,
But there'll be no more voting at that point.
right,
By the
and
board.
so procedurally, coming out of executive session, there should be a motion to go in, while in executive session, motion to come out.
Right.
After we come out, the chair should say, we're now out of, executive session.
Okay.
Nothing was discussed, but the personnel issue on the agenda.
You have highlighted.
Okay.
And then you're supposed to roll call the council.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because otherwise we could have talked about anything and then nobody would have been able to. So everybody said yes, that,
Yes, they agree that nothing.
yes, there was nothing discussed. And that way there's a record
Okay,
that
that we didn't,
we didn't talk about whatever else we wanted to talk about. That's
Okay.
really procedurally how it
Okay.
is.
okay,
Because there is no, you don't make a motion to come out once you're already out.
Yeah.
So you declare we're out, and
Got it.
that's what goes into the minutes, then a roll call it. And then your statement is nothing was discussed in the executive session that was not related to the personnel issue on the agenda. Went to a training.
I see that.
Yeah.
Good, good, that's fine.
For a different government issue.
Okay, so with the changes, if I could get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
I move so to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, any opposition? It passes. I learned that Monday. Okay, so the meetings, the approval of meetings from last, the minutes from the last meeting. There was a question that the secretary wanted to pose that I'd like to just air with the board about amount of detail that she puts into the minutes that could be captured on a report. So in other words, Aaron and Kara both submit a written report on their updates. And are people okay if those just get attached to the minutes? Included in the minutes? Or made available upon request?
I think if they're attached to the minutes, that's fine.
Okay,
I don't have a preference. I don't know what's legally binding or necessary. They have to be made available, I expect.
right.
So what I've
It's
done,
public.
I've done before, is I kind of summarize what the report is, but see what I feel is important may not be, important to someone else. Or the highlights of their report may not be, the same, I may not get the same feeling as someone else would. So that's why the question was, should I summarize it or should I just add the report attached to it, and not necessarily copy and paste, but just attach it?
I would say attach it, but if there are comments by the board.
Right.
Or
There's
questions
or comments, add
that
those.
happen in the meeting, then you capture that.
Yeah, and I normally do,
Yeah.
but last month, when there was a question, there was something stated that I should give a little more information on what was discussed in the meeting, so I kind of did that with, and this went back to the way I was doing the minutes originally. And then I started copying and pasting it, and then that whole topic came up. So that's why I'm asking, how do you want me to put the minutes?
Is one operationally easier or more difficult than another?
Either way, I'm still getting about 5 pages, but you could staple the.
You
But I can
attachment,
I can attach the other one
Yeah.
without having to go.
Actually,
and-
because we have to
add
post them on
anything.
our website, so.
Yeah, and I also added a note to these minutes, like if you wanted the full report, just see the. I forgot what I put on the bottom, but
Ask for
if you read the minutes, you'll know what's on the bottom.
Make your point.
Report is available.
Yeah, so the minutes have to be, by state statute,
Right.
that we have to post them on the website, so if you're just stapling them, I need to know because that's gonna have to be added on the website as well.
Yeah, so not stapled attached,
Electronic,
so it would be their report attached.
yes.
See,
And it would be an electronic thing, so that it can be put up on the website.
yeah, they submit their reports anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
electronically
So-
too, so. Right,
So it should be easy enough to attach, given our technology and.
so I can attach them to the minutes when I turn them in.
Uh-huh.
All right, but there's a hard copy kept in your office.
Yeah, so I mean, in my opinion, I think for us to be, be in compliance, I think the note that you do put at the bottom, available upon request, or you can even put, or see the business office at the high school.
Or see the business
Mhm.
office. Should I-
Because I have the physical
And they-
copies.
It would be a hard copy
Yeah.
attached to those minutes,
Mhm.
right?
So,
So the way I did it with the note on the bottom is okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
It's just,
So we don't
upon
need,
request could mean go to the business office,
yeah,
ask for it.
Yeah.
And then in the binder, there would be the minutes and the hard copy attached.
mhm,
okay.
the
So-
signed minutes.
So with that being said, I would also like a copy of Lawrence's report,
finance,
finance report.
Absolutely, yeah.
okay? So do you have what you need?
So that then, are you gonna type that into the minutes?
No, just like the way, Sylvia used to submit a report. And then she would go through it and I would highlight on it, but see, Lawrence is the one who wanted me to do all this. So he comes and he makes a little summary of what they went over, but we don't know what he went over. We can't see it.
There's not a written,
There's not a written report. He's just giving us what he went over.
okay, so we'll just have him give us a written report.
He's not here.
I know,
So,
Well, Lanika's part of the
Right.
finance committee.
so what needs to be in the minutes is approval.
So the required parts in the minutes are the financial report has to be approved.
Yep.
The accounts payable and payroll, the disbursements have to be approved. So as far as the finance part, those are the two main components you have to have in there. So,
So a committee's report may or may not,
even being.
it's not required, I
Right.
mean.
And nor are the reports,
oh,
right?
Because the financial reports
Yeah.
that I send out, those have to be on our website, and those are also on our website.
So these other attachments are not required.
But we put 'em-
But I mean, it's,
Yeah.
but I'd like Lenita to comment on what she feels about the financial, what she's been plenty of board meetings. Yeah.
Definitely, Lawrence, cause I know he tells you guys what we discussed. I
Right.
don't see why we couldn't just type that up. And it's basically just like our review of the reports Irene sends.
Right.
We go over what questions we have, and decide whether or not, we're prepared to approve them for tonight.
Okay.
So a summary.
Yeah, so she.
Yeah, so we could just do like a little summary.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Monica.
Of course.
You approve the minutes.
approval of minutes from last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to take a look?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, I get a second.
Second.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Public comment?
Humphrey, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. Okay, my name is Humphrey Serio. I was born in Kenya. I came to the US last August. I'm a student at the University of New Mexico. I'm pursuing a master's degree in electrical engineering. I'm a career navigator with the SWEPT team.
So you just wanted to observe the meeting,
Yes,
right? And so, but he's also working with the capstone students.
Yeah.
And so, he's also going to be teaching, a
Basic
computer,
yeah.
basic computer skills
Yeah.
for adults, for SWEPT.
Yeah.
And so we just appreciate him and Whitney, who does communications at the university, being part of the SWEP team. And evidently you asked to come just observe the meeting.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted people to know who he was and that he's not a stranger and that we appreciate him.
Very strange, but
Not a spy.
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
And make sure you.
Coming.
Okay.
Okay, we had on the agenda to do the PD visit. But we're going to have Alex answer questions on, and she's only got like 20 minutes anyways. So Alex, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Thanks for inviting me to join, Mark. Everybody, my name is Alex Bazan. I work at Delta Management Group, and we've been brought in to help you all with your hiring process for the ED. So I've been working with the hiring committee made up of Mark, April, and Lawrence to come up with this job description. I'll be doing all of the back-end administrative work for the actual hiring process, taking in applications, sending them over to the hiring committee for next review, setting up interviews, helping the hiring committee come up with interview questions, working with you all as you are part of the interview process. I think the second round will go to the governing council, so I'll help set that up, helping to set up staff communication with the finalists and things like that. So moving this process along from point A to point B and helping with all the steps in between. So I wanted to introduce myself to the entire board. And today we actually had a hiring committee meeting where folks brought up some of the really good questions that were brought up during the retreat that you all had on Saturday. So I thought it might be best if we were able to have a conversation about some of those questions. And then there were a couple of questions that the hiring committee had around qualifications that we want to make sure that we have articulated correctly in this job description, and make sure that we're not excluding people unintentionally while also recognizing what is required of this position and being transparent about that up front. So all of that brought me here today. Do you all remember some of the concerns that you brought up from the retreat? Or Mark, do you want to bring some of those up so that we can have conversations around those and then we can move into the qualifications? What works best for you?
Well, I think, we talked about them at the meeting. There were a couple themes in the questions, and unfortunately, one board member who had questions isn't here tonight. Or will be coming on late, but I think the idea of wanting to have a broad enough description that is reflective of what where RFK is going, so that we have someone who can incorporate skills into making that a reality. And one concern was, what was the transparency going to be with applicants for the board? And I think I answered that all resumes are going to be in a file. Or Alex,
Right.
If you want to go ahead and answer those questions, I've said it already, but we'll let them hear it.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll do first review, and that includes one thing, Robert, that we'll be asking you later is what access you all have to job posting sites and LinkedIn and things like that we should be considering. But applications will be sent to me first. I'm going to upload all applications to a shared Google Drive that everybody should have access to. I'll have different folders that say maybe this person's obviously, in my opinion, not a fit, but you also have access to it and have the ultimate ability to look through and say, no, I think we should interview folks. I'll say for me, I tend to err on the side of sending more to the hiring committee than less. So I know there was concerns about specifically folks from historically marginalized communities or folks who might not fit every mark, not making it through my first review. I tend to have a pretty broad first review and rely on you all for being the content experts. There's some folks who will just obviously not be a fit, especially when we do paid sites. Sometimes with paid sites, folks will just click on every job that comes up, and I can tell that they don't want this job either. Or they didn't follow our recommendations. We have cover letters included, and we have some questions on the cover letter. Again, if it's a really good cover letter, they didn't follow instructions, I'll probably still let it through and say, what do you all think? I tend to err on the side of people being able to review, but no matter what, you all will have access to everything. What I'll typically do is give the hiring committee a report that says, these are the ones that I didn't pass through the first screening. This is why I didn't pass them. Here's how you can access these resumes and applications if you want to see them. Here's all the folks that I think we should take another look at, and possibly invite to the round 1 interview. From there, what we have written in the job description right now, or job announcement right now, is that a round 1 interview would be with the hiring committee. The hiring committee then decides who will be moved from round 1 to round 2. Those folks will go to a meeting with you all as the governing council, get to know you a little bit better. You'll all have the opportunity to ask questions. Then folks from that will be selected to be top 1 to 2, maybe 3 if we have really good candidates that go on to meet with the staff and do a tour of the school. We can adjust that as needed as we're in the middle of the process. I think it's important to always meet the group where it is, but that's what we're talking about right now. So again, I'm the one who's doing the first reviews, but you will have access to everything. And I usually give people an idea of why I don't think somebody seems like a good fit up front. Does that hopefully help ease some of those concerns? Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Alex. That was. But now questions, Lanika, obviously, well, you weren't at our meeting. So if you have questions too, but does anyone have questions specifically for Alex? As far as the role or how this process is going?
And Lanika, I have your additions, so I'll be adding those or making the emphasis on being a champion for students more evident in the job description. But I have that and that'll be updated.
Thank you. And then I hope you got my question that I wanted to make sure we were asking. And
Yep.
I'd really like it if that was the question we asked at when it's the whole board.
Oh, great. Okay, let me add that to my notes right now.
Only because I want to know the answer.
Right.
The other,
But I mean, I'm not the only one that has a say, so it's up to everybody, but
I just have a question. I put in a comment. One of the transitions that is happening is transition to more of a focus on CTE.
Yep.
And I put in just a couple of phrases on that, just to be able to clarify that is one of the changes that is being planned, and that they should know about that a little more concretely than I saw in there. Did you have any questions or issues with that?
Not that I can think of. It is something that I know the hiring committee was thinking about as well. We do have it under additional qualifications, but I agree. I can put it up above in the what your first 6 months may look like, where it talks about the transition, so that know that CT is a big priority. The other thing that we were talking about is including that as a interview question. A is an opportunity to explain what CTE is, make sure that everybody fully understands, and then get their input as to how they see that as the future of the school. One thing that we were talking about in the hiring committee meeting today is getting to the heart of whether or not an applicant really sees this as it's like you all are looking at the future of education and not just sticking in where education is now. And if they're truly understanding that and what they see as the future of education, RFK's role in that work.
That's good.
That's your question.
Would they spell out career technical education?
I'm sorry,
Will they spell out career technical education as opposed to just putting CTE?
career technical education is in there.
Yeah,
As those words.
yeah, thanks.
Yep, and I'll make sure that it's spelled out a few times, Robert.
Yep, appreciate it.
Another issue that came up, again, was the idea of this broad net. And So Alex, can you speak to your experience with the idea of required credentials?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
It's a question for the board. Do we need to have someone who has a college degree? Do we need someone who has a high school degree to be executive director?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, I think one thing that's really been coming to mind today after our discussion is making sure that we are realistic about what this person is going to be asked to do and advertising for that. So, and recognizing that if this person has to take on certain jobs that have requirements per APS, then we need to be realistic about that. I don't want to advertise a position, that somebody thinks they're qualified for when secretly they're not because we didn't think this through, if that makes sense. Being transparent and being open is the best way to move forward. I see too many, specifically, smaller nonprofit organizations, that are very interested, rightfully so, in building the bench of qualified candidates from historically marginalized populations or from groups that they represent who are historically marginalized, but they don't have any, systems in place to support somebody who maybe didn't do this job before. And then somebody who comes from a historically marginalized position and was not well prepared to do this work then doesn't do well. And then the board gets mad about it, right? I just want to be transparent about that and want us to think about that ahead of time. I don't think that's what this group is going to do, but I've seen it happen too many times that I think we just need to make sure we're setting people up for success. So one of the questions we initially had, and we took it out, was the administrative license, because it seems like that's covered. One thing that we went back and forth on in the hiring committee was whether or not the executive director would be expected to fill in for the principal if the principal wasn't able to show up either for a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever that could look like. If it is an expectation of this person to fill in for the principal, are they required to then have an administrative license to act as the principal? Are we setting somebody up for failure? Or do we just need to change policies and procedures at RFK that says the ED is not the backup for the principal? These other folks who have this license are the backup for the principal. Therefore, the ED doesn't have to have this licensure. Things like that were questions that came up. When we took it all the way out, we decided, okay, great. Is it fine to not have any educational requirements for this position? I can say for my hiring at Delta, I removed educational requirements a long time ago. That fits for our positions. Sometimes that doesn't fit for all positions. We do happen to have one or two on staff where folks have to be nurses, and they do have to have educational requirements because they're nurses. So I want to be really intentional about this position and making sure that we are being honest about what somebody needs and or what this specific position needs and how we set somebody up for support, especially if we're casting a wide net and maybe bringing in somebody who doesn't have educational support because we think it's what RFK needs. How do we make sure that this person without educational support can succeed? I hope that makes sense.
Your blood pressure down now, Robert? Do you want to?
I thought, I'll ask.
So, go ahead. All right, go ahead. You can see this.
Yeah, I thought in the job description, it did say education was required because, I mean, that we are a school and essentially the executive director is the principal here at the high school. We do have a principal at the middle school, but here at the high school, the executive director will also be the principal.
Could be, but we have a principal at the high school.
Right.
But as far as like budget,
No, I understand going forward.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And so that, and again, we were having this discussion about the administrative license. Is that a requirement for someone who comes in? And we can say it is, or we can say it's not, but they need to get one.
Mhm.
We can do either of those two things. We could put it in as a requirement.
Mhm.
If you don't have it, don't apply. So it's just sort of where we come out on that.
Right. So we initially, and I'll put the language in the chat, this is what we initially wrote. Based on some of the feedback that folks were getting at the retreat, it sounded like this, and it's listed under additional qualifications to succeed in this role, that this might not be wanted because it felt, I think folks were concerned that it tightened who was going to be able to apply for this position and maybe exclude somebody we wanted to this position unintentionally. But again, getting back to it, if this person has to act as the principal, and a principal is required to have this, again, I just don't want to set somebody up for failure or tell somebody that their ability to they're able to do a job that it turns out they can't. Or the other thing is to figure out, is the ED not ever going to be backup for the principal, therefore never need this license, and there's backup in other ways. I think it's going to either require, it's going to require a discussion. What does that mean? Because either your processes and procedures will need to change to ensure that whoever's in this position, even if they don't have this educational requirement, can succeed. Or we tell people up front, you have to double as the principal. And therefore you, per APS regulations, have to have this license. And I just don't know the answer to that.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
So my understanding, given the personnel issues that are currently in place, there's an option for having the new executive director work toward the administrative license and have two current individuals, one at the middle school and one at the high school, that carry an administrative license. My concern is that the wording be such that we open it up so that if we get a candidate that's qualified in every other way and is really top of the list, but does not have an administrative license, that they can be considered.
So let me
So-
read out this language really quick. And also, like I said, I tend to err on letting people move forward. So I've never seen a candidate who matches every single qualification. So I hope that folks know that I'm never gonna sit there with a resume and say, nope, you don't match this one, I'm kicking you out. I've never seen somebody who matches every single qualification. It's more about fit than every single point. And that's the viewpoint I'll be coming out with. So I hope that answers that concern as well that I know folks had. Right now, it says educational administrative license or a demonstrated willingness to secure an educational administrative license.
Yes,
Does that feel okay?
I think that does what I've just described, yes, that it's inclusive. And it works. Robert, do you have any comment?
Of course. So, the job description still talks about having multiple years of experience in school leadership. And so, to me, that would mean that somebody had an administrative license. Now, they could have an administrative license in another state. They could have a superintendent's license in another state. They could have a degree in public policy where they worked at a private school as a school leader. But then in those examples, somebody could apply to PED and get an administrative license, right? So if the requirement is that they've demonstrated 5 years of leadership of a school, then they may or may not have had an administrative license, but they have the ability to require one without going back and getting their master's.
And so, Robert, one clarification is in the job request, it doesn't say only education or equivalent. Alex, could you put back up in the chat what you just had there?
Yeah, so it says, and I'll
It's not
put it
limited.
again.
Currently, the way it's
least
written.
5
Yes.
to 7+ years of experience in a related field or equivalent leadership experience with demonstrated education, administration, and management skills.
So education, leadership, and management skills. Yes, maybe they could be a CFO of a school. Is that what people are thinking? Um,
Or, I mean, my thought is maybe they don't have been in a school for all that period of time, but they're effective leaders, managers, have a vision. And the staff here can help.
so there needs to be administrative license for the school.
Right,
Right.
right.
All right, so could this person be retired from the military where they ran military training program? Right, so somebody who teaches electronics or leadership in Colorado Springs, they might not have a public education administrative license. But, there would have to be, well,
They'd have to be willing to get it.
they'd have to be willing to get it. Now, you were at the Legislative Finance Committee there, they were talking about possibly recommending that a charter school leader have a superintendent's license. So could somebody have a superintendent's license and not have an administrative license? They could,
Oh, is that right?
I believe that they could,
Those
yeah.
are two separate.
So if you were, so Michael V. Hill used to be the CFO of APS Schools. He was, they had 4 superintendents, all at the same time. So he had a position as a superintendent. Tom Garrity was their communications superintendent, right? And so those people had a superintendent's license, right? Now, Michael V. Hill, run a school, he could certainly run the business office. Does he have the background in educational leadership? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what else he did,
Sure.
right?
Right.
So in those situations, I could see how, that would be the case.
It would be the case that they don't need to have one and
Could get,
could get.
and pretty easily.
Right.
Right, I know
Is
that when I
there-
started, a license, a master's in public policy was considered equal to an administrative license. And PED would grant that because if you were running government, right, then you have leadership ability to manage, but right, theoretically, right, and so, and I'll say it again, when RFK started, I did not have an administrative license. But I was partnered with somebody who did. And so, so that's sort of a situation where you might have an administrative license on staff who could work with an instructional coach to do observation and evaluation. So somebody from the chair of South Valley Academy's board, they have a principal over there whose administrative license needed to be renewed. They did not have a supervisor, but I signed off on that renewal of that administrative license. And so I'm not the principal at South Valley Academy, but I think in your position, you would sign off on me getting a license renewed. So I think
So-
there's a way, but I think.
So
that-
Robert, do you think if we say something around support to acquire this license or the equivalent license can be given, just to make sure that people know that they have that support? Again, I want to make sure that if this person has to act as a principal, and I just don't know the requirements, but if APS has requirements for what somebody in this position has to do, or PED has requirements for something that this position has to do, that we're just upfront about that. Or upfront about requirements that they're on deck for. So if they're on deck to be the principal at any time, or they have to act as the principal for the high school, and that has a different set of requirements, we just need to be upfront about it. And it sounds like you're saying that there's a process to get there, and we'd be happy to talk you through that or something like that. Is that right?
So they would have to be, they'd have to demonstrate that they've got the ability. You could have an administrator here. So Pete has an administrative license. He moved up front and served in that capacity last year. And so I served in the capacity as the director. They could be separate. right? But, in a very small school, sometimes the superintendent is also the principal of the high school and mows the grass on the weekend, right? Or is a coach and a principal, right? And I understand certain council members feel that they don't want to close the option to find this exceptional leader. But there's got to be administrative staff and have that role. And then their requirements would be very different than the school administrator. Right?
The requirements of the director would be different than the school
They
administrator.
would not be supervising staff evaluation. right.
The administrator,
The non-administrator
the non-administrator.
could
Oh,
not,
I see what you're saying, Robert, that this job description would change pretty significantly if they were like on their way or didn't have support.
so you'd agree with me, Linda, it requires an administrative signature
Yeah.
on the teacher evaluation, right?
Okay.
And so, but there's a lot of parts of my role that are more like a superintendent.
Yeah.
Right, and so, but there would have to be an administrator assigned to, teacher evaluation.
Okay.
And very often, that principal would be responsible for instructional coach, instructional improvement, that sort of piece. I just wanted, and now, it doesn't mean that somebody could have a PhD in curriculum and instruction, right?
Right.
And that was what they did, but they never picked up an administrative license.
Hmm.
And so that might be a really good fit, right? Somebody could be a CFO of a district, right? And might have the political connections and the budget background to be able to do that, but they would not be responsible, or shouldn't be responsible for curriculum development, and instruction, and would not be qualified or certified to be able to sign off on it.
Teaching.
Does that help, Alex?
Yeah, so it sounds like this needs to stay, and at least it says a demonstrated willingness, and we can ask candidates for more questions about that. One thing it sounded like I was hearing from you too, Robert, is that a master's degree is not the only path to an educational administrative license. Is that right?
Here's the typical, right?
It's the typical path, but that you can.
So what if you had a PhD and were teaching educational leadership at the university,
Mhm.
right? But you never picked up your admin license because
Right.
you wanted to teach, and now you're retiring from UNM and you've got some real good skills. You've been training principals for a long time. And could be curriculum and instruction was your focus on your master's. Then I think that person is uniquely qualified to be the director. And not necessarily have an admin license, but would be easy to get one,
Right.
right? So, or what if?
I think that makes sense.
What if you're a retired teacher that went back to get their admin and was one semester away? Do you know what I mean?
Well, again, Robert, what we're saying, just the willingness to get.
No, I'm giving you examples of where that might work. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah, I think it does. You know,
They're
my biggest
willing.
concern was if we removed
Willingness,
it
they're one
completely.
step away, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my biggest concern was if we removed it completely, were we being realistic about what we were asking somebody to do and setting them up for success? And it sounds like adding it back, either having this license or a willingness to secure it, and we can talk to them about paths, will cover the base. It'll be realistic about what is required, and that you don't have to have it right now.
All right, so can I ask you a question, Alex?
Yeah.
And so in the screening out process, does somebody who has an admin license check a box for you that makes them a preferred candidate?
I don't think so. If somebody had an admin license and they had a cover letter that said, I think all kids are terrible and no one should succeed. No, I'm gonna let you guys know,
So
hey,
that-
they have this admin license. They don't seem like they're a good fit for any school, certainly not this school. But I would tell you all as about
So.
what I was thinking.
Admin license preferred. Uh. Then that would then make that person more qualified than somebody who, where if it didn't say.
Well, again, I don't know that that is.
I wouldn't say that, at
That's-
least
that's
for
my
my
point.
first review.
Right, so that's my point, right? You,
Right.
it wouldn't screen that, shouldn't screen a really good candidate out.
No,
not.
no, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think
If
that-
anything, I might say, hey, we have to add a question or make sure that we explain the process and why we're asking for this license and make sure they know what goes into it. And that's something that they're still signing up for along the interview process. But I don't think, I wouldn't screen them out because they didn't have one at all.
And so I'm the chair of the board of South Valley Academy, and when it was founded, neither of the founders had an admin license, but there was a path created, a direct path created within UNM to get them their admin license in a very reasonable amount of time.
Well, was it required then?
Yes, you had to have an
Oh, you did.
there had to be an administrator associated.
Associate with.
And so then you contract with an administrator to have that administrative, and maybe they just come in and sign off on evaluation and budget.
Right.
Um,
Whatever they required for the,
right.
okay, all right, so, go ahead, Bob.
I have one more question for you, Alex, and that is, in terms of the questions on the interviews, one of the areas that I think is really critical is the executive director is chief of getting things done, making decisions and keeping us on track with our focus. And again, I can't help but think of the execution book, which talks about people, strategic plan and organization, and the whole issue of putting questions together to be able to winnow out, do they have a strong enough personality to really have demonstrated their ability to make these kinds of decisions and keep an organization on track with its goals. I think that is a critical piece for the executive director. Anyway, we haven't talked about the questions
Right.
as
We
a
haven't done that.
governance council, but this is something that I don't see specifically spelled out in all of this literature. And that is such a critical piece and such a big part of what the job is. I felt like I need to throw that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, I'm so
Sorry.
sorry. Did I talk over someone?
Good book.
I have trouble hearing.
It's a good.
I appreciate that, and I think that that's a really good point. And in addition to what you're saying, all of the hiring committee members are going to split up some contacts and actually just do a quick meeting with some school staff, a couple of folks from community, and I think Mark will be talking to you about a couple of potential parents, where we talk about leadership style or what quality we think folks in a leadership position need for RFK specifically. They're also going to ask about what challenges they foresee for a new ED that's specifically following in Robert's footsteps. So that we're thinking about, again, those leadership styles, those personality types that we need in this position, in addition to what you were saying. So that will be incorporated into these interview questions as well. And I think given that this is a question for you, for the hiring committee, we'll make sure that the questions that are asked by the board include a leadership style type of question to get to what you're talking about.
April?
So I wasn't able to make the meeting today. My dog got out and I had to get my dog before they took him to doggy jail.
Did you get him?
I got him. I got him.
We all have empathy for you.
So,
We've all been there.
yeah, I had to run and get my dog before they took him. And good thing the dog catcher was, I guess he has a relationship with my dog all of a sudden. I didn't know that, so I'm glad I got there. So anyway, so I had over the last few years, being on the board, I'm kind of listening and researching a lot of stuff, so I came up with some basic bullets and for like a description. So what I have here is just leadership and vision, operational management, financial oversight, instructional leadership, community engagement, policy development, and human resources. As far as requirements, I do believe that a master's degree in education, educational leadership, or related field. And then go into detail with that. Experience, skills, and qualities. So that's what I have for you. I have a lot of other stuff in between, but those are the main things that I came up with.
April, would you mind sending those to me in an email and I'll cross-check it with our current description?
Okay, I have the current description, so I just wanted to give that out, and since I didn't get to make it today, I wanted to give you what I had, so I will send it to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I know, Alex, you've got a limited time, and so do we. So is there anything else? Robert, anything else?
No,
Okay.
and look, that's, I've not been involved with this, so I feel like I've made my
Yeah.
points, yeah.
Linda, is there anything I mean, we'll talk to you more in
Yeah.
detail, but. Okay, April,
I'm good.
Lanika,
I'm good, sorry.
okay.
Lawrence is here. So is
Alright.
Lawrence.
Well, thank
Carlos,
you
did
guys so much for your time. I really appreciate getting to
Alex, thanks for coming
Thank
on
you very
short
much.
notice.
Great to meet
I
you.
don't have any, I
meet you.
don't have
Thanks, everyone.
any questions.
Okay,
Carlos has a comment.
Carlos,
Yes, I can't get my video to work, but I'm listening and no, I don't have any.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. I appreciate you all and it was good to meet everyone.
thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay,
Lawrence is on.
Is on my
yeah, he's on the phone.
Right. That's
Well,
what
and he has access
I just
because,
make sure that
yeah,
everybody's had input.
okay. ED site visit
Okay. Mark, you were there.
was. That's not a good thing because then I think we did it here.
We did.
We went through it. I know, I went through it all.
We did.
Then on the training, we went through it all.
We did.
And I just forget that at the board meeting, we have to go through it all
I know, again, right?
again.
Here you
I think
go.
I have most of those, but
Yeah, you have all of these. I'm just passing them out to everybody who has them. And PED came January 13th. And they asked a bunch of questions. And they wanted all the data. So the first, I'm just gonna talk about each paper separately. But this is everything we gave them, and it's a packet. We give it to them as they ask the question, I would pull out what I had to explain. So the first document was attendance. So our attendance currently is at 84.46%. Talked about that. They wanted to know, because that's a really important piece of the whole MRI status and keeping kids in school so they graduate. The next one was our graduation list. And I whited out all the names of the seniors on this.
literally.
But-
I didn't know.
On the back, I put down, we have 47 students who are in the cohort of 2025. 76% of them are, that 76%. We have 5 in the 2024, we have 5 in the 2023, and we have 1 in 2022. We also have 4 students who are currently slated to graduate early, a year early. So that's 62 seniors. So I just wanted them to see that we keep track of what year, what cohort they're in, what school they started at, what grade they're currently in, and then Pete gives all the teachers a little heads up on how kids are doing, so that their advisory teachers, all their teachers actually can see how they're doing, what they need to do, so we can all be supportive of them.
And the 4-year graduation is where our graduation score comes from, and so 76% are on track to graduate in 4 years.
Yes, and that's way better than what we've seen.
And that's a big deal.
That is a big deal. Yes, yes. So that's positive. We just have to keep it up. The next thing you see is our STAR data. So it's beginning of the year math, beginning of the year, middle of the year. So it's beginning, middle, and you can see the increase in the areas. I didn't bring my master copy, but you can see there's a large growth, 12th grade. So the green is at or above, the blue is on watch, the yellow is intervention, and the red is urgent intervention. So you see math data, you see ELL data, and then you see reading data, and then reading ELL data. So, the data looks good, basically. Middle school, not as good. We've made some changes to that. It's still growth, okay? But we're looking for more growth, so we're gonna do a few things differently. And we went from 5 freckle intervention classes at the high school to 2 this semester. So you can see real growth there. We don't have as many students in the urgent intervention.
It's fantastic.
Thanks, Louis, thought
I mean,
about it, I was like.
There's more progress to make, but.
Yes, exactly, because they're still low. I mean, it's not like everybody magically
Yeah.
is on track. Yeah, not
That's
for.
so awesome, so awesome.
Oh, good, yeah, so, you know, teachers are working on it, students are working on it. You saw at the community event, we gave $100 gift cards to the 10 in math and reading who have the most growth, so that's an incentive also. So the schedule is there because it shows that we have less freckle classes, and that's why the schedule was next. Then they asked how many teachers are doing their 10 non-negotiables, and so we did a little graph, and 57.7% of teachers are doing the 10 non-negotiables. They're, you know, you go in, you watch, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Advisory classes, we have a schedule in advisory where they do certain things on certain days, and we go in to look to make sure teachers are doing that, like they're updating their credit grids, or they're doing freckle, the intervention that shows this growth. They do that on Wednesday. So we want to go in and make sure that teachers are doing it on that day. On Friday, it's SEL, social emotional learning. We want to make sure they're hitting that on Friday. We want to make sure, bless you, that they're doing progress monitoring, keeping track of students and their grades, those seniors especially. I mean, all students, but those students especially. Okay, and then the next thing you see is a lesson plan. This is a PSYOP lesson plan. This is difficult.
SIOP stands for.
Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. And teachers have to put their lesson plan on this sheet, okay?
Okay.
And then we go in and observe them. Well, we review it, but then we go in and observe. We noticed a few things were happening where I have POTS higher order thinking skills. Teachers weren't writing the questions that they were gonna ask and then ask them. So now we spelled out, you need to put down the questions that you will be asking. They need to be higher order thinking questions. They can't be, do you understand that? Or, well, you know, they have to be a higher order thinking, critical thinking question. The other thing is ticket out the door. See how I wonder, I discovered, I still wanna know. Well, teachers thought, oh, you already did, I don't have to put anything there, and then they wouldn't do it. So took that off and told them, you have to show what exit ticket, or how are you gonna summarize? Just things like that. We switched up the lesson plan. On the very back of the lesson plan too, we would say special ed accommodations, and they'd say, everybody, there's longer wait time. Well, that isn't specific enough. You have to tell who is the student who has special ed accommodations, and what are you doing specifically for that student? Not just, oh, I'm gonna repeat everything for the whole class. Want to know specifically what you're doing for that student. So that's in there now. And the other thing is assessment. How are students demonstrating their learning to you? Because that's another thing they ask in the evaluation, but teachers don't really have a place to put that. So we included it so that they have to think about, what are the students doing that period that we observed to show that they've learned what the objective is. So we switched that up and we're going to go in, and this is from PED too. They want us to emphasize PSYOP strategies. So teachers are gonna have to identify at least 2 PSYOP strategies when we go in that they're doing. That way, maybe they remember them, they make sure that they're hitting them. And PSYOP strategies, sheltered instruction strategies are really good for all students. The last thing in this is the New Mexico Dash. We have to do a plan, a 90-day plan every year. You start out the beginning with the fall, and then you had to do reflection. We've never had to formally do this reflection piece so long. We just do a little sentence. Well, this reflection piece was really long. We did that, and I included it, as well as our new spring 90-day plan. So you have to look at everything that you did the fall, you had to revise, and then you had to put another 90-day plan in place. So we've got it done, it's ready to go, it's submitted for review, and we gave it to them when they came. Anybody have questions so far?
So the lesson plan format is being used, it is planned on being used universally? This
Yes, all
semester
teachers have to do,
For all subjects,
all
Yes.
subjects, everyone.
including the what their literature or writing,
Yes,
the language objectives.
yes.
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, math teachers have to put it down. We want everyone to emphasize reading and writing.
Fantastic.
Yes, no matter what.
Yes, the grade level.
Yes, grade level.
Grade level.
Oh, that's really important. Grade
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, the last thing I put in your packet, I didn't give to them. This is what they gave to us. This is the middle of the year summary, their findings from their day of meeting with us and giving them all the information. They took it all and then they wrote their findings, and this is their summary. You could look this over.
They have
This-
copy, right?
Everybody has copies.
So it's pretty complimentary,
It's
and then shows the work we need to do around,
PSYOP and common formative assessment.
They summarized the. Yeah.
Yep.
The start, yes,
Star.
they did, and graduation,
Graduation.
yes, they summarized all that. Cohort for 2024, I think it's in here. 80% is what we're shooting for 80%. I mean, we're at 74%, but we're shooting for 80%, which is way better than if you look at it. 2023, what was it, 35.5%. So, yeah. I think we have really good goals. We're shooting high. And our STAR data is looking good. We'll see how our SAT data goes, because that's what they really base the MRI status on. Your reading and math scores based on the SAT, yeah, yeah.
Right.
So-
It's impressive, yeah.
So,
any comment, Mark, you were there?
Yeah, no, I think the PD was very pleased with what's happened. I think RFK has responded very well to identifying goals and implementing strategies to reach them. The numbers seem to support that what has been done is getting the results that we like. And it's a matter, kind of as Robert said, is that when you're starting at a very low bar, it's pretty easy to get 30% by just getting a couple questions right. But we've now moved everyone up, and so if we get another 30%, I think that actually demonstrates skill acquisition. And the attitude that kids have taking these assessments has changed, which has also influenced the outcomes. So we just want to keep that direction going. It may not be in the same increment on the end of the year, but nonetheless, our bottom line will be much better for all of the students. Right? I mean, the minimum.
And the goal is 5%.
goals 5 for the middle,
Yeah.
at the end another 5, so it goes 10%
For the year.
Right,
for the
but
year.
we're already above.
It's,
But-
it's an additional 5% this
Yes.
semester.
Correct.
Yes.
The second.
Yes.
So we over exceeded, but we've got to keep going another 5%. Right there.
Yes. Yes, and we have, every teacher has a data chart in their room with
For every
the
kid.
star data, yeah. So we're gonna,
These lesson plans are used in the mid-school as well as. the-
yes.
Yep.
Yes, they are. It's the same lesson plan, everybody else uses this format. We're kind of,
There's some. The charts that you have are fantastic. I really appreciate it.
oh,
They
good.
raised a couple questions for me.
Yes,
One of them is when you look at the boy stars, math 24 and 25. You see such remarkable growth in all high school grades, but not as much in mid school.
But
so we've looked at that and we've thought about that. And I think, I don't know, Aaron wants to talk about it, but he's changed the schedule around for students. So every single student had an intervention class
Okay.
all day, every day they had one.
they had a period.
Yeah, they had a period of freckle.
Okay.
And here you only got into freckle if you were in the urgent. So they're switching that to where they do it in their advisory class. So it's not
teacher
every
will
day.
do it.
I'm sorry, what was-
Every teacher will do it.
every teacher will do it. It was assigned to one teacher,
Oh, I see,
and here, every teacher does
I
it.
see. Okay, so that was a difference in procedure.
And Aaron asked for that change and we absolutely supported and we told PBD we're making that change.
The other thing that struck me was that of the Boy Star reading this year, the first semester, the 12th, 10th, 11th, 12th grades made huge strides. The 9th grade didn't.
I know.
And
Yeah.
I'm just curious what this is. I'm sure there was discussion around that too.
Yes, they lost. I
So-
mean,
So those are new students to RFK.
they are good.
Brought into the culture,
Okay.
and their habits haven't changed, right? And so MOY is mid.
Ninth grade's the most challenging.
They're new.
Yeah.
And they are the most challenging. And when we look at attendance, very often the ninth graders have some of the worst attendance because they haven't changed their behavior regarding attendance. You're not gonna show improvement if you don't come to school. And so
Yeah,
that huge shift in attendance has caused some students to lose their seat because they weren't coming. Many of those are coming back, wanting to be back and signing an attendance contract. And I'm willing to change, and we'll see.
Okay.
Everybody got serious about attendance when they saw people losing their seats.
Right. Yeah, and if shifts at the mid-school to improve are gonna make a huge improvement for folks to come over.
That's right. Those are our best students and
Yeah.
getting them part of the culture at the middle school is how it grows really.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else? have a
Anyone else
question?
questions, Zoomers?
No, I would just like, I sent, Irene an email. If I could just get a scanned copy of all the packet that you handed out, just so I
I
can
did.
look at it.
Lenita, I sent it this afternoon.
Oh, okay, maybe I just missed that one. I'll look. Thank you.
Carlos, Lawrence?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
Appreciate it.
fair, thank you. Good.
Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, we're good.
You're welcome. Sure, thank you, guys.
They call for data. We got data, right?
We have data,
Well, data's important.
and we have a APL site visit tomorrow. Yeah, so
And he was here for this visit and,
I'll be blind.
right, and
Right.
so he's recommending an expedited renewal of the charter, provided that we continue to show the
These are
Yeah,
remarkable.
Joseph.
yeah, he was here and he was Yeah, it was good. It was very good.
One way or the other, you said.
You what?
Mhm.
Good with the judgment part of it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
There's some respect there.
Yeah. Okay, so, middle school update, Aaron and Kara, thanks for hanging in. I know it's a lot longer than when we had it on the schedule. So, Aaron, if you'd like to summarize maybe your middle school update?
Sure. If I may, Mark, I'd like to address something for Bob regarding the middle school data. I'd like to ask the board just to remember that, the school, our numbers are really small, right? I mean, and that's something that's going to have a hit on us when we have, so many sixth graders, so many seventh graders and eighth graders. And when one of them tanks on a test and stuff, it really skews our data. Within the data, as I shared in December, we have some huge celebrations for some of our students. And so I'm happy to kind of dive into that data a little bit deeper with the board regarding the school at the middle school. Yes, the data as a whole, we got work to do, and that's something that we've known for a while. But just please keep in mind that our attendance numbers, the numbers of the classes and grade levels in comparison to what we have at the high school are much smaller. And so when some students poorly perform on those tests, it really highlights in the data. So just kind of keep that in mind moving forward.
That's great.
Go ahead.
That's a great point.
Thank you. I gotta advocate for the middle school. We're doing some marvelous things over there. And oftentimes it doesn't come through the data. So I just wanted to make that point. Mark, to your point, to summarize, really the biggest thing that I am really wanting to celebrate is our increase in numbers. From December to January, we have added 15 total students to the middle school. So we went from 63 students in December to 75, and by next Monday we should be at 78. Hopefully by the end of next week, possibly to 80. Just because I have a couple more interviews. I had one today and I have one scheduled for tomorrow. Depending upon if they bring back their applications, that might shift. So we're moving. The biggest thing, again, second semester, we started January. Here we are. I can't believe we're already almost done with January. As Linda shared with you, we revisited our 90-day plan. That's going to continue to be our guiding document moving forward. Everything we do at both the high school and the middle school is going to fit in that plan. And so that's just the biggest piece. Really, I think one piece that I want to highlight for the second semester is we're diving in deeper to reading and writing. And as we met with teachers upon their return back for the second semester, we reviewed their curriculum maps, reviewed assessment data with them, but we're also looking where they are planning to plug in reading and writing into their curriculum and their contents for this second semester. Those were areas that we addressed in our 90-day plan for the first semester. And for the second semester, those are areas that from the first semester that we didn't really hit on. And so that's in addition to what we're doing for the first semester, we're going to make sure that we hit those points second semester. So really wanted to kind of hit that. Another celebration, we had middle school and high school students participate with the John Hopkins event that took place last week. It was a student design team convening, bringing schools together from across different areas of New Mexico. I was very proud that our middle school was the only middle school in representation there. It was held at the National Hispanic Cultural Center. It was really nice to see our students engaging in the work and collaborating and networking with other schools. Other than that, I think that's where we are. Attendance, our attendance coach, Crystal Mora, and myself continue to meet on a regular basis regarding students of concern. We've got quite a few students on attendance contract. We are starting to see a nice positive return this second semester for some of our students being on campus. Other than that, I think that's where we are so far. If you have any questions, I'm ready.
One quick question. Oh, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Aaron, big congratulations on those 15 students. Do you see where they came from or what attracted them or what actions? Do you see something about how that happened?
Quite honestly, I think they're looking for the right fit. I don't want to kind of pinpoint it on one particular thing that's bringing our students here because we're getting students from all over Albuquerque. We even have some from one from Los Lunas and one coming from Belen. And so multiple different things as they're looking for the right fit. Obviously, there's some different factors going into every student coming to RFK. But the beauty of it is they get a fresh start. And that's the conversation I'm having with parents and with families and students as they're coming in. And so wherever they are starting at our school, that's perfect. And we're going to just move them forward with the idea that they're going to have a fresh start. And parents are fully aware of the commitment that they're making, bringing their students to RFK and the collaboration that they're going to be expected to participate in, because that's what I cover in my meeting when I interview them.
So how are they, to follow up on Bob's, because I had the same question, where are they coming from? How are we getting them? Just so that we can identify methods of continuing that. How did people in Los Lunas hear about RFK Middle School?
Word of mouth. That's been our biggest thing. Many of our families are recommending to their friends and families, both the high school and the middle school. That right now has been probably one of the biggest pieces of bringing students in. I've had quite a few families come in and getting recommendations from families who've gone through RFK and wanted to hear about it. And that right now has been most of the interviews that I've had right now have been coming from because of affiliations to RFK or our family and community.
Yeah. So it's not your first Los Lunas or Berlin student, is it?
No, sir. No,
There you
sir.
are. Yeah.
I've been present in Aaron's interview with a new potential student, and let me tell you, it gives reason why people want to be here. Aaron is just fantastic there. He gives the student all the responsibility. He tells a parent, excuse me, but this is between you and me and your child now. And a lot of parents love that. So he's awesome.
Thank you,
Great.
April. And I want them to know what they're walking into. No surprises at the middle school.
And it's real. It is as real as it gets.
Karen,
Thank you, April.
again, want to say congratulations. We're looking at the potential of providing a talk at the charter school conference this summer. I'd like to sit down with you before our talk is final and see if there's something we can feed in there to help put the word out about what we just talked about the parents recommending or in some way bolster and put a word in for mid-school RFK. So I will follow up with you on that.
You might
Sounds
plug
great.
in.
I'd love to have the conversation.
Love to be there.
Yeah, that's what I meant by plug them in.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron. Does anyone else have any questions, Zoomers? Okay, all right, great. Thank you, Aaron. Kara, what do you got cooking at the high school, young lady?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Let me take this off because I can't hear myself. Just to follow up, I mean, Aaron, awesome job. It is really nice to hear all of that. And you're always an inspiration for what I'm doing, so thank you. So I really want to hit on this new school-based violence intervention program that we are working with the city of Albuquerque. I know Robert's been working with them for a while and they've been in our schools before, maybe in a different form. But we have, the city has provided a staff member who is coming in as a sort of support / interventionist. And we're designing a program around that for students who are having a hard time continually accessing an education in a regular school day. So it's a variety of reasons, but we're looking for a place for them to be able to refocus and reset, and we're calling it a refocus program. So it's in the works. We met with the gentleman who's coming in this week. We're going to continue to build this program with him, and hopefully we have an intervention for students who are having a hard time maintaining in school, either with attendance. I know they're called a nonviolence intervention program, but it's not violence centered in our mind. It's just an intervention for students who are needing a little bit of support. Some of it's mental health. Some of them are having a hard time just being in class due to a number of things going on at home. So we're gonna utilize this person. It's a work in progress. We don't have a clear schedule for it yet, but we definitely have the vision, and I think it's gonna be a great way to move forward and also keep kids engaged in school who sometimes just, they end up not showing, and then we can't find them, or they end up in a situation where they should be suspended for a longer term, but now we can have a place for them to go in the meantime
Right.
and still provide that education to them. So that's
Right.
exciting. That's something that we're working on.
And I just wanna, so a lot of the students that were put out at the end of last semester are now
Yes.
coming back, and that's where they're going because they weren't being successful before. And so now it's a self-contained room that they can earn their way out of. And so it really is, there are students coming back, and that's gonna drive up our number, but a new student coming in who's been thrown out of another school might start there.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate the design work that's going into this. It's going to be a big impact for the school.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Robert. And we do have an influx of students, oddly enough, coming in from Rio Grande High School, and I'm not sure why, but we've had at least 4 or 5 that are in the works. We've also had some that we're thinking may be a good start in this program and then moving them sort of full time. So I think it's going to be a nice stepping stone in either direction. But our numbers as of right now, our enrollment as of January 21st was 227 students. We've had quite a few come through the door. So I know that there's probably at least 6 students in the works of being registered right now. And then we've had quite a few students who dropped last semester are now coming back. So our numbers will go up, and they're in the process of going up. But we do have this program now that I think is going to be a nice bridge for some of those students. As far as, we've covered a lot already this evening, so I won't go into too much detail in anything else. We have a new teacher. His name is Jerry Esquivel. He's teaching our new media arts and film class, or our arts and film class, I guess is not new. And he's also co-teaching with the Ingenuity courses that are being offered through CNM right now, and that's also a new program that's been developed. So that's pretty exciting. I think he's a good fit, and he seems to be doing a good job. He has a great wealth of knowledge around film and media arts. So we'll see kind of how that transpires, but so far so good. And the other big thing is access testing will begin, which is for our English language learners. They are being assessed in early February, so they're kind of gearing up for that as well. And that determines English language proficiency and helps us determine who our English language learners are. I think that's about all I have. Any questions?
Hey, Kara, how many English language ELLs do we have in the high school?
I don't know. I don't have that number on the top, off the top of my head. Does anybody know? Do you know, Robert?
Is it?
It's a third. And we, on the 40-day, we had a teacher who did not have the certification. We applied for a waiver. So on the 80-day, they counted. So
Oh,
now on the 120-day, because we get funded differently for those. And so I think it's 95 students, right?
Okay.
For the 120-day.
Thanks, Robert. Anything else?
Do you typically see a lot of students who may want to leave because of the sports or the athletics?
I've never had any students express that. That's not a reason I've heard students wanting to go. They're not always forthcoming. Usually when they're ready to go, they're the ones that have left kind of in a huff are upset and don't want to express why they're going or where they're going. But no, I've never had one say it's because of sports.
How about in middle school, Erin? Do students want to play football in like high school and they're not sure where they want to go, or?
That has been a point of conversation. We've actually had a couple conversations with some of the families coming in regarding sports at the middle school. Unfortunately, we don't have that at the middle school, but we do partner with the home schools. And so when students want to play sports, then as long as they're in good standing from their home school, we could make that connection happen. But oftentimes it's that good standing situation at their home school that kind of puts them in a predicament. But for the most part, this last year we partnered with Harrison, and many of our students got to play sports at Harrison. And so it's just really a conversation that we can have with their home schools. And as long as they're academically, because they have to meet, you know, the NCAA requirements. And as long as they do that, you know, that's how it is.
No, I know how the system goes with as far as sports. I'm just wondering if that's what a lot of the if some of the students are geared toward that and leave or.
So they don't have
No.
to leave.
No,
Right.
no, not, it's just really a big thing for them, like they want to participate, so we look for options, but in terms of them leaving, that hasn't been a situation for us, yet.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
I-
hasn't really been the reason for the high school either.
I've heard some students in the past, but I think it is like, when they start coming here, they feel a lot more comfortable here. And they kind of like forget about that whole idea. Maybe.
Right,
unless
and you
it's
know,
pushing
sorry.
it, you know?
Yeah, you make a good point, April, and it's kind of what Aaron touched on too, is they come here looking for the right fit, and they are looking
Right.
for smaller class sizes. And that kind of seems to be the driving force usually, especially when they're coming like from Rio Grande or any of these bigger high schools. So the sports is kind of secondary usually, as far as I've seen.
There's a student that comes here now, and I know that at the beginning, when he first started at middle school, his dad kept pushing him, I need you to be in football, you need to be in football. But right now, he's already a junior here. And I don't think he's leaving, so I think it changes when.
Well,
he
again,
comes
they
here.
can compete. He can stay
Yeah.
at RFK.
He doesn't even
Mhm.
wanna compete in
Well-
sports, he's better off, he wants to stay here
Yeah.
doing what he's doing here.
But if Frisco was his home school, he could play sports there.
It's not even close to here.
Well, wherever, but the difference is they don't get in trouble here,
Mhm.
so they don't get suspended, so they stay eligible. A lot of times the coaches prefer them to stay here and play there.
Right,
Are they eligible for scholarships that way?
sure.
Yeah,
They are too. So they're
Absolutely.
eligible
Just
for
like
everything.
any other.
They can
Just
do
not going to
ROTC,
school there.
they can do ROTC at Rio.
Really?
Yeah,
They
and-
stay here because they stay academically.
Got it.
eligible.
I didn't know that they were eligible
Yeah.
for the scholarships.
So what they
That's good.
get to do 1% of the budget in order to serve athletics.
Okay,
Yeah, it's in.
that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, great,
Thank
Karen.
you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being
Thanks.
here. Thanks for waiting.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, audited financial statement for 24. We have that before the finance committee.
Mhm. Do you want me to put up the findings?
Sure.
Yep.
That'd be good.
Let me blow them up better. For FY 24, we had 2 findings. And they were other non-compliance. So if you look at the last page of our my financial report, you'll see that I updated that. So we're back in the green and yellow, no more red.
So the total number of findings is no longer 3.
It's just 2.
And it was,
It was
It
4
was
or 5. It was 5.
Yeah, it was much.
Yeah, so
And
we went down to
repeated.
2. Yeah. So we do have one repeat finding still. It was you'll see here, it's the second finding. They did note on there, management made progress on this finding by submitting reports timely. Because in the past, I had one quarter report that was submitted after midnight.
Right.
But there were some minor differences, but they labeled it as other non-compliance, so, which is good.
That's great.
That is good.
That's great.
So you expect those to disappear next time?
Yes, oh, yes,
we always do.
yeah. I strive for 0.
Well, and again, just to bring out a point for us as a board and for Robert and Irene, is that Irene was willing to get help to address
Mhm.
these
Mhm,
and not back away from it, not hide it, not
mhm.
be defensive about it, but just problem solve and get it done. And so the fact that it got done,
Mhm.
I think you deserve a lot of credit.
You do.
And,
Thank you.
and learn how that fix went, so it doesn't happen anymore.
So it doesn't have, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
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 It's gone.
it's gone.
I
right.
appreciate Irene.
So, yeah, that's great. And it's a, reflection of putting resources into addressing that problem. And the problem got addressed and now our results are good, just like in the academic. So I think that's very positive about what we've done and what you've done and,
Thank you.
you know, the way that this is working.
And that was pretty clear in the audit with the comments made by the Roberta Vasquez, who oversees, charter school finance.
Mhm.
She
Right,
said the same thing.
same thing, and that
Progress.
we work really well together and that it was fixed and it's not coming back and
Great.
huge improvement.
Thank you, Irene
Thank you.
and
Thank
Robert.
you, Irene. Can, did you email that to Lawrence and I,
I can,
please?
the findings,
Not the findings, the audit.
financial statements?
Yeah, I'd like to see the whole audit packet, please.
Yeah, I will, and it'll also be, after the meeting, it'll be posted on our website as well.
Okay,
I just wanted to
you.
wait for the meeting to post it.
Yeah, we couldn't even talk about it publicly until
Yeah.
tonight.
Great. Good news, all good news here. Aren't you impressed by this place, man? The way we're coming out of the ashes?
Why we've had ourselves on the back.
Okay, Finance Committee report, Lawrence, I guess you're here in a box and.
Lauren,
Lanika,
Lauren
you're up there.
said Lanika would be doing the report.
Okay, Lanika, hit it.
all right, let's see here. So, we had our finance committee meeting last night. And, I have a few questions. Always, right? You're like, of course she does. So there were 4 checks, that I want to ask about, and now I've like shuffled my papers and can't find them. So give me 1 second. So there's 4 warrants that I want to ask. And then, the other thing was about, the audit. So that's good. Okay, there's my notes. Okay, so, Lawrence and I had a question on the I'm gonna just butcher this. Sevilla,
Central Savila?
well, it says the Salavia Collaborative.
Yeah,
Saval-
it's
yeah.
central, yeah. That is for our ancillary services. We have a social worker
Okay.
and a case manager through them.
So that's that contract stuff that got moved that way, right?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah, so we eliminated 3 staff members and because we didn't have operational dollars and contracted for the behavioral health.
okay, got it.
And
So
that's one of the
behavioral.
contracts.
Okay, and then what about NMPSIA?
NIPSIA, that's our benefits.
Oh, okay,
It's the New Mexico Public Insurance Authority, Public School Insurance
Public
Authority.
School Insurance Authority.
okay,
So-
perfect.
Other APS is self-insured, all other schools are insured through NIMSIA.
Okay. And then the Association of Charter School Ed Service.
That's ACES, they're the ones that, it's through LDD and we do our IT support through them.
They're a nonprofit collaborative that was created for charter schools and we do our technology support through them.
And they
Okay.
also we do canteen through them.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, canteen and
Oh,
our
and
IT.
canteen.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we purchase computers through them as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, any kind of IT support, any devices we purchase, cows, any of that we purchase through them.
Okay, well, if that's the case, there's a check lower for Harris Computer.
That is actually it's through Harris Computer, but it's Aptifund, our accounting software.
Okay,
And how much was that one you're talking about?
for
15,000?
13,000.
Yeah, that's my annual fee for Aptifund.
Okay, and I'm guessing some of these might have been higher because they're like the annual fees. And then what about Design Plus?
That is our architect that is doing the work for our new CTE facility.
That's what we thought, but we just wanted to double check. Okay, and then we reviewed the request for reimbursement summary. All looks good and looks like everybody's on track. And I'm guessing that the ones that we're still pending billing on is what we had discussed last month still. Would that be correct?
Which ones are each? The ones that I haven't submitted an RFR for.
Yeah,
So those ones we haven't used the funds just yet.
okay.
So
But
once we use the
our
funds.
plan is to use the funds and not to revert funds, correct?
No, we'll use it. We already have.
We have a
talked
plan.
and met.
We
Some
took
of
all
the-
those numbers
yeah.
and put a plan together,
Yeah.
to expend those funds.
Some of
Okay.
those funds are we used, for like YCC, in the farm and stuff. So that's why it's kind of put on the back burner for
Okay,
the first semester, and then now we're ramping back up for the farm.
It operationalizes in April.
Yeah.
okay. Perfect. All right, those were all of our questions from our finance meeting. And based on the responses, the finance committee would like to motion to approve the financial packet sent by Irene.
So your report is that everything is clear? Is that basically the? report?
Yes.
Okay, and you made the motion in April,
She made the motion, and April 2nd.
okay? Any opposition to approval of finance committee report? Okay, cash disbursement.
Thank you, Lanika.
Of course, thank you.
The total for the cash disbursements for December are $600,877.77.
First money.
Does anyone else have any other questions on any of them? Yeah.
Well, my usual question, is there anything funky? I mean, is there anything new, different, or significant?
Outrageous.
No, I mean, you'll see one on there, Zeptiv for $5,000. Those are for our vape detectors for our bathrooms.
Wow.
That was just for the equipment. We'll have to, pay for the installation. Mhm.
What was that?
When was that?
Zeptiv, it's, probably about 12 down from the beginning. It was $5,068.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
This is 600,000, what you expected this last one?
It's a little higher than.
Yeah, it seems a little
Routine.
higher than usual.
Yeah, so, there in January, there's 3 payrolls, but they take it out of our bank at the end of December it was a January 1st, or January 2nd.
3 in December.
Yeah, so it hits, so
It's expected.
That explains it.
yeah,
yeah, and not just 3 payrolls, but all 3 payroll tax cycles too.
yeah, so everything's in triple for that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
my IRS payment, yeah. Mhm.
But you can see that up at the top that there's all the payroll all the payroll right there. So,
That's
but
over
it is-
$200,000 just for those 3.
yeah,
Mhm.
it is higher too, and because also it makes the payment for the ERB much
Yeah.
higher because of the 3.
Everything attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I could have a motion to approve the cash disbursement?
I make a motion to approve the cash disbursement.
Second,
Okay. Anyone opposed?
Who seconded? You did?
Sure.
Carlos.
Actually, either one.
I did.
Two. Likes to be in the meetings.
Okay,
Go ahead.
we've got a bar.
We don't have any bars.
We have no bars.
Okay, great. Great.
We will have bars next
Okay, and then Lanika, for Lawrence, you and Lawrence on the finance committee.
Mm-hmm.
April would like it if you could submit a summary of, the
Our
report.
meeting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I made a
do
note and I will let Lawrence know.
okay, all
Thank
right,
you.
okay, great.
Yeah, I heard you. I'll take that action.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, next on the agenda, strategic planning session. We had scheduled the 15th. We were wanting as a board to do that on the 15th. Jennifer can't do it on the 15th. I'm gonna be meeting with her Monday and we'll see. Now, she could refer us someone else that could do it on that day.
Is it Mark Simon?
I think so.
Her husband just had a operation.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Well, I don't mind not doing it on the 15th.
okay. Okay. Bob, any comments? I'll just see what she's got and we'll bring it back and we'll play the game. Okay. Student enrollment budget, obviously enrollment's up over 300.
It is.
So that's a good thing. I think we took care of the ED search update in spades. Do you want to do your report before we do executive or vice versa?
Sure, it's brief.
Yeah.
It's legislative time and I want to thank Mark Walsh for joining me on Monday for a presentation at the Legislative Finance Committee and the Legislative Education Study Committee, as well as meeting with several key legislators. The Public Education Department conducted its mid-of-year visit. The data presented tonight and the 90-day plan for the second semester submitted and approved. APS visitors tomorrow afternoon. We're being recommended to expedited charter renewal for next year at this point, given the school improvement data, a significant audit improvement. We are meeting or exceeding all identified goals. If we are to continue to show academic improvement, we need to focus on what is being taught and how instruction is being delivered. That is curriculum development and instructional practices. Students need to be reading and writing. Reading needs to include complex text, including authentic text when appropriate. Reading needs to include grade level vocabulary, and writing should be relevant to academic content. Grade level content needs to be delivered by highly qualified, competent teachers who care about our students and work with our families. Upcoming events, there's going to be a career fair. That'll be April 24th. Capstone presentations, the Enchilada dinner, and student recognitions, not reconditions.
When is that?
And so we'll send the dates out, right? It's in April. Safe
Both of them.
yeah, and Safe Families and Know Your Rights community training is something that we're planning on doing. And then really the thing I want to talk about is with changes in federal immigration policy regarding schools, churches, and health facilities, teachers, students, and families are reaching out with concerns. I am recommending the review and development of a new policy regarding law enforcement coming to campus. I've initiated communication with several relevant agencies, schools, and organizations to develop a recommendation and will work to design training for staff, students, and families. This is a fluid and evolving situation that has potential significant impact to our families as well as student enrollment. And so Kara and I met about this afternoon. Immigration was at a charter school down the street today. And it used to be that schools, churches, and health facilities were off limits. That's no longer the case.
Oh, wow.
And so we're going to be convening some groups, schools included. And we're going to be, I've got a contact with an ACL attorney that's making recommendations. Tuesday evening, SBA is going to work on this. They've got an attorney on contract that's going to make some comments. And then we want to do some Know Your Rights trainings for students. There was ICE was at a trailer of one of our students. They can actually go into the trailer. looking for people.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so we're gonna come up with a know your rights card that students and
Yeah.
parents will have.
Yeah.
So if you speak only Spanish,
Yeah.
right, then you don't have to say anything, you can give them the card and explain these are your rights, right? And so, and not to panic. And so we've done this before, we do role play, they always make me play the cop. And so, but then people don't panic and they
Yeah,
handle it.
no, it's a good idea.
So this is a real concern for us, and, my concern is that families are concerned. And they would rather pack up their things and go back to Mexico, rather than their father be deported or locked up here, because at least they're together as a family. I wanna bring it up, I've got a concern about, the whole staff is concerned about this.
Yeah.
And so we'll do some training, but I want to be able to bring back the new policy to the GC next month to be adopted officially.
Is it here on Tuesday night?
No, it's at FBA Tuesday.
I'm sorry.
It's at South Valley Academy on Tuesday. I'm on their trip.
What time?
It's at 5:00, 5:30. It's an open meeting. You're more than welcome to attend. And it's right over here.
And that's gonna be a topic.
It's on, I put it on their agenda today. And the attorney will,
Would we welcome?
you'd be welcome in person. You'll recognize the number of the GC members, Clyde's on the GC, Stacy's on the GC.
Robert,
Yes,
also remember, the meeting on Saturday,
I'm getting that next.
right?
Do you think
That could be another opportunity to bring it up with parents. Maybe you could send out an invitation to parents to show up to that legislative meeting, because the state legislature, and this is what people are talking about, that each state is going to have to be aggressive in protecting all the families, not to get harassed, not to get, so that we reduce the fear and aggravation.
And so that's what I told Kara and Aaron, we really need to wait and see kind of what the state's going to do, because they're going to put some measures in place, right? But at the same time, I told them to wait till next week, but we need to be able to come up with a know your rights little card that we can pass
Yes.
out, right? And so Carlos is talking about a legislative town hall here in the gym on Saturday from 1 to 2:30. Representative Roybal Caballero, Senator Linda Lopez, and Senator Harold Pope are supposed to be here. And Harold Pope is the senator the African-American senator that you met up in Santa Fe with me. And I completely agree. Cindy O'Neill's quite upset about this regarding the families. And she's bringing 4 or 5 people with her around this issue. And so please attend. SWEP is going to provide refreshments.
Okay.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Carlos, because the state is not going to sit quiet, right?
Right, no, they're in action.
Yeah, we have to be very proactive in this matter.
Yes, we do.
It's why it's in my report, Carlos. I appreciate you saying that. And that's my report.
Okay. Any questions for Robert?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Now I would like to call a executive session to discuss a personnel matter only. And so we will end the recording.
A motion to go in.
Oh, we got a motion. So if I can get a motion to go into executive session,
I'll motion.
okay,
Go into executive
I'll
session.
second.
How do we
Anyone
do
opposed?
the board members that are on Zoom?
So everybody that's not a
Board member.
governance council member needs to sign off.
Okay, and just stop the recording, I guess?
Yes, and the recording needs to sign.
Bye, Aaron. He's leaving.
Yeah.
So you can turn it back on.
It's back on. It's recording.
We're ready? Okay. We're now out of executive session. Nothing was discussed in this executive session, not related to the personnel matter that we called it for. And I need a roll call for board members to confirm what I just said was true, that what we did in the executive session. Bob?
Yes.
Lanika?
Yes.
Carlos?
Yes.
Lawrence?
Lawrence.
Step on.
Yeah.
April?
Yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous that that is what happened in the executive session.
And that's what needs to be in there.
Yes.
Okay. Last thing is, any housekeeping issues? The building committee, buildings on course.
So it is.
Any change from
yes.
last month?
I'll change.
Still waiting to get the funding. right?
So no,
We got the plan.
so the plans are done. We've got some contractors looking at it to give us some prices.
Right.
They're in communication with the architect.
Right.
Irene met with myself and Kazido Genji, the head of the capital master plan. There's conversation about an alternative funding mechanism regarding APS that I do not want to go into detail about, because they're still in discussion, but they would allow for the construction to all happen at the same time. So, so we are prepared to move forward with the dirt work, right? That needs to happen before the slab gets poured. We are prepared to expend those funds for the dirt work and the transformer, that would need to be. The architect, Rufo Engineering, father passed away a week and a half ago. They're Jain from India.
Oh, wow.
They have a very unique tradition,
Yeah.
where they paint the body and reincarnation. And so, Rufo's sister was having a baby 2 days after the death in Dallas. And so for them, it's very much a passing over.
That's all right.
Right, and so, I'm being respectful, but next week, I'm gonna ask her to do a meeting. I know Carlos will be busy, it might be a Zoom meeting, but I'd like to. I'd be happy to be involved. Right, and Kazido's willing to just been let me to discuss.
Options.
Yeah, great, he said.
I can make myself available, Robert.
So what I'm gonna do is start with you, and when it works for you, and we'll work back from there. Is that okay, Carlos?
That's fine.
And we'll do it as a Zoom,
All right.
unless you're in town. I'm,
Okay.
it's important that we get this moving.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, any other housekeeping? Anyone have any housekeeping issues, things we've missed, things you need
I'm scheduled to finish my training probably in about 4 weeks.
okay? I got one Saturday.
Something like.
April, are you good?
I'm fine.
Okay, if I could have a motion to adjourn the meeting,
I still move.
second, April seconds, anyone opposed? Motion's passed.
Thanks, everybody.
6:42.
Thank you.
Thanks.
12 minutes long.